We good? Okay, we're going to get started this afternoon now with Franco Amalfi. He is a director in digital engagement strategy for Oracle. He has been with Oracle for 20 years. He is here via Montreal, and we are glad that you're here. Please, at this point, it's all yours.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for coming today. We appreciate you inviting us to speak today. And we're going to talk about social enabled policing. It's a topic that is very near and dear to our heart. We are spending a lot of energy working on this topic because we think that there's a shift in the population in the way people communicate, the way people engage, and social media plays a critical role. And I'll talk to you about how social media plays a key role in community policing. As you mentioned, my name is Franco Amalfi. I work at Oracle for a long time, and we focused on digital engagement. I'll pass quickly through this, and just to keep our lawyers happy, just that this is not part of a contract. We have a global, the way Oracle is organized, we have 20 different industry units, and one of the industry units is around justice and public safety. It's a global industry unit. We have people that are working in North America, people in Latin America, we have people in Europe, in South Africa, people in Asia and Australia. So we have a very broad team that is focused on this and really focused on bringing together solutions for law enforcement. So when we started looking at this topic, the first thing that came to mind is we really need to go back to the roots of what community policing is all about. In the 1700s, Sir Robert Peel of the UK came up with this concept of community policing, and he really, what he defined it as being is the police are the public and the public are the police. That means that there's a very tight relationship between the law enforcement organizations and the community and the public. We need to work together to not only find ways of solving crimes, but also preventing them, to ensure there's harmony in the community and to ensure that we are working together to keep the peace and keep things orderly. So this concept is very critical because going back to this, I think there's a shift now where we're going back more and more to this community policing. I mean, we heard it from all the speakers this morning. We're hearing more and more humanizing the law enforcement officers, making sure that you see people in the community with a girl with a car, or you see people with doing these dances or so on. That is such a wonderful way of looking at police. I have many of my friends are law enforcement officers, and they say that you never hear the good things that they're doing. All you hear is in the news, the shootings, you hear about this, you hear about that. That's all there is, because as the lady from Jacksonville was saying this morning, people are focused on dramatizing, on disrupting. Those are the things that sell. So people are just focused on those things. So what does it mean, community policing, and why is this an important concept? It really is about having good relationships and trust between the public and the police, and working together to prevent crime and disorder. And when we really think of efficiency, it's the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. It's really, how can we prevent the crime? That's when we really know we have success. There are two major successes globally that are really known for this. It's in Japan, the Koban system, and in Singapore, the neighborhood police post. Those are really two great examples on how community policing has been very effective and very successful in doing this. So, but if you fast forward to today or the 21st century, we really have, although we're still doing this, we have kind of drifted from that initial idea, that initial concept as Sir Peel wanted to us to think about. The first thing is we really focus on problem-oriented policing. We have very rigorous and effective methods to solve problems. We have great methodology and tools and data. We really are good at doing that because we have so much information. We really focus on also intelligence, not policing, leveraging all the information to solve crimes, profiling it, so that serious offenders, and supported by an informal command structure to make sure that everybody that is working has the information to be able to do their jobs effectively. And then last but not least is a big focus on predictive policing, meaning making sure that we prevent crime before it actually happens. So we're not saying that this is wrong. We think that data is very important, but one of the things is if we're so dependent on data and past crime and criminal data, we may actually be thinking that the way we're operating today is actually the right way to operate, that we're really trying to prevent crime and stop crime. But what I think we should be looking at is also, we need to keep doing those things, but we also need to be looking at the shifts that are happening. There's a tsunami of data in social media. There's crowdsourcing. I mean, I was talking about a great example on how crowdsourcing and how the public really helped law enforcement find solutions and finding a way to resolve crime. There's also the concept of instant gratification. We live in the world of me. It has to be now. I'll take a video, I'll post it, I want to make sure it goes viral, I want to make sure that all my friends know about it, I want to make sure that it's about where I am today and where I am doing now. It's going to be about me. And then there's also this concept came out before, citizen journalism. There's a lot of time, there's not a lot of truth in citizen journalism, or the truth may not be as fully as we want it to be. And there's also more and more shift of the communication. There's a power to the people. In the past, we controlled the messages. We were able to put out whatever press releases we wanted, and with the press, the news, and so on. But now, a lot of the messages are controlled by the public. And if we don't control it, it can really be causing us a lot of headaches. I don't think I need to tell you this, but social media has really changed the way we communicate. It's not going anywhere. I mean, if anything, this is going to be ingrained. Right now, we're talking about it because it's a new thing or newer thing. In a few years, this is going to be a non-event. It's just going to be part of our DNA, and it's part of something that we do every single day, and we have to do it. In the US alone, out of 330 million people, there's more than 160 million people that are active on social media every single day. And this is incredible. There's no other platform where people are active on. There's more people consuming the news from social media than they are consuming it from from like newspapers. There's more money being spent on digital ads or digital information than there is actually on traditional media anymore. So it's really becoming the way to go. The other thing that is really interesting is more and more people creating video and posting it and curating video. And there was a session before, it was great because it talks about how we can actually leverage video in law enforcement, but actually is leveraging that video, using that video for be able to do analysis and actually be able to be part of that movement. Because if the public is doing it, we should be doing it as well. And last but not least, I think this is really important, is like the social network users has more close tie and influence over their virtual community than any other media. If somebody goes out and buys something, they will ask their immediate social community. They will ask them their opinions, they will ask information about it, they will talk to each other and they'll form their opinion. And it's the same thing with the law enforcement or any other thing that people are doing. They actually are forming their opinion and they're trusting their friends. That's why it's important that we're part of those circles, that we engage with these individuals, and that we trust, that we actually control our messages, and we are the ones telling them how we want it to tell them. The good news is law enforcement is actually really doing a great job and not skipping a beat. I mean, if you look at it, there's a study that was published in the fall by the International Association of Chief of Police, and some of the statistics are pretty startling. 95% of law enforcement agencies use social media in some capacity, be it Facebook, be it Twitter, or Instagram, whatever it is, the social media is being leveraged. About 80% found that social media helped solve crimes, which is a pretty significant number. And also that for public relations and reputation management, which is critical, we need to make sure we protect our reputation. And it's also, a lot of times it's used not only for criminal investigation, but it actually, a lot of people are finding that engaging on social media has helped them improve community relations. And which is, at the end of the day, one great thing that we want to make sure we have a better relationship with the community and the public. So if I look at what are some of the things of social enabled policing, look at some of the examples, is really ensuring there's order in the city and having participation. If you look at these two law enforcement officer, they're out there talking to people, making sure that people are going about their business, doing things, and keeping the community really going and keeping the community very effective and engaged with the community. So if traditionally, there's been a lot of discussions about return on investment, but we're really thinking that, yes, you need to think about return on investment because there's a monetary investment you need to make this. But what we really think the metric should be is return on relationships or return on community. You may hear these terms being used more and more. A lot of cities, a lot of different agencies are using these terms because it really is about return on community. If we can invest in this community, are we going to see more, I'm going to see less crime? Are we going to see more prosperity? Are we going to see more people wanting to live here? Those are the kind of things that cities are looking at more broadly, and obviously law enforcement is a key component of cities because I work across multiple departments, and when we're looking at holistically across the different agencies and departments, we're actually looking at it, how can we improve the lives of our citizens, and law enforcement has a key role to play in that. So then one example, I know that we've been talking about this, and many people have cited the Boston police, the bombing that happened 2 years ago. On the 16th I just want to talk about the importance of crowdsourcing and how the public helped the Boston Police Department solve a crime that was so horrific and it caused so much global attention. So on the 16th, there was an explosion at the finish line of the Boston Marathon. then the first thing they're looking at is like obviously they want to get videos. There's so many people with smartphones. There's so many people that are taking videos, and there's cameras in the cities. There's videos being taken everywhere. So what they actually did is actually they set up a line where they actually asked people to send their video in on this website. They set up a phone number where people could call in. They received like hundreds of thousands of different videos that people collected. And using this video, they were able to not only to be able to collect information and be able to look for clues, and they actually were able to actually set up a hotline with the FBI. People called in to recognize these individuals, and 4 days later, they were able to capture these two individuals. Without the help of the public, without the crowdsourcing, where you had hundreds of thousands of people helping the police force, this would not have been possible. Would not be done this quickly. They would not have been able to solve this as quickly. So the good news is, not only we hear a lot of negative in the press about things that are happening, exactly what's happening in Baltimore right now and other places, but there are all good stories as well. And these are the ones we should be focusing on, is how we actually can we enable these good stories. Another example that we've been working with, and it's one of our customers, it's the Argentinian police in Buenos Aires. As you probably know, Argentina is one of those countries that has a very interesting economy. They either do really, really well and they have prosperity, or something happens, their economy crashes, and all of a sudden everybody's poor and everybody has a lot of difficulties. And it results in a lot of crime, a lot of riots, a lot of looting, a lot of different people going in and stealing. So what they needed to do, they needed to find a better way of actually engaging with the community and be able to understand. A lot of these people were organized themselves on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, and so on. So the police force needed to be able to listen and monitor these websites and these social networks to be able to capture that information and be able to prevent some of these crimes. And that they saw significant decrease in crime by doing these type of activities. So if you're looking back, I mean, social media is a very vast world. I mean, if you're looking at the statistics, I think it's Twitter, I don't know, many hundreds of millions of messages a day, and Facebook, the same thing. So we really need to be able to monitor social media to detect threats and find people before they act against our interests. So obviously there's that aspect that I'm going to focus on the threat identification and the crime investigation, and then I'll talk about the community engagement afterwards. So we need to be able to find the needle in the haystack. So it's never this easy. Nobody's going to go on Twitter and say, I'm going to bomb the Australian embassy. Nobody's going to be that dumb. There may be individuals that are not going to be very smart, post pictures of themselves stealing something or stealing gas from a car or doing some stupidity on a video, and they go and post it. But if those that are doing things that are really causing a lot of damage, they're not going to be this blunt about it. They're not going to be this open about it. So if you think of it, we really have to analyze that tweet or the messaging in social media in the context of a broader context. We need to look at the profile, who sent the message, what else have they said, and what's their pattern? What are the type of things they've said over time? And we need to make sure we keep track of those things. We also need to understand the context. What was said, the topics of interest, and extract entities and coordinates, etc. And I'll show you an example of this. And then relationship. Who was this message for? Who's in the person's circle? Who are they influencing this person? How are they interconnected? So if you're looking at context in this simple message, I'm going to bomb the Madrid train station tomorrow. Death to America, ISIS, join me at Amanda 95. So the first thing we look is time, tomorrow. The action is I'm going to bomb. The topic is bomb, location Madrid. There's a hashtag, there's a sentiment, death to America, they were in Napa, but with America. We'll look at these previous posts. We'll look at the relationship with Amanda, and then we'll look at the time. We'll look at coordinates from a geolocation. And then we look at the device info, we came from the web, or they came from a smartphone, or whatever it came from, and then IP addresses. So we can actually start narrowing down where these people are coming from. So having that information really helps us be able to better form our understanding on how people are thinking and how people are working together on these social channels. I'll look at an example. These are things that have happened recently in Europe. There was an individual with the name of Timur Abdulwahab Al-Abdali, it's a mouthful. He posted a message on YouTube calling for jihad. That was how this started. But then what he actually did is set off bombs in Stockholm, killing himself and two bystanders. That was like the end of his situation. But what happened also is, in between and posting this message and setting up the bombs, he actually befriended this individual by the name of Arid Uka on Facebook, and then he also befriended the jihadist group Dewa FFM. and then he fatally shot two US soldiers boarding a bus in Frankfurt. The police had no knowledge that these two individuals related, but they only found us out after they started digging deeper over time, they were doing the investigations, that these two individuals were related. So what we need to be able to know is, not only this individual is doing these acts, but who's in their sphere of influence, who are they influencing? So that way we can actually be able to go and stop some of these things from happening. So obviously, social media is an important aspect, but in its own, it's not enough. We have to use all of our resources. The police forces has a lot of systems, a lot of databases. You have a lot of video, a lot of different tools that you're using. Social media has to be leveraged in context of other systems as well, and be able to use the full system. So you can combine across agencies, intelligence, securely, quickly, and privately, so you can best meet the goals of preventing crime and solving crime. So that's why we brought to market this concept of social enabled policing. So obviously, intelligence-led is really critical to help us prevent crime and solve crime. Predictive, to be able to know ahead of time what's happening. There's a city in California around LA called Santa Cruz. They actually deploy this tool where they actually know, depending on the time of day, the time of year, the weather outside, and the demographics, and so on. They can actually predict within 500 feet where the crime is going to happen, and they actually deploy police presence so they can deter a crime. Those are the kind of things that we do. But then add on top of that the community aspect of it, the crowdsourcing, leveraging the people, the power of the people. There's only so many law enforcement officers in our agencies. How can we leverage the power of the public? Because the majority of the population want to be helpful. They want to be able to keep order and want to be able to solve this and leverage social media. So I'll talk about how we do this. Some of the things we do is listen, analyze, understand, and communicate. We've got to make sure we do all those things. We've got to listen on social media. We've got to analyze the data. There was a discussion this morning about using analytics, because there's so much data. How do you make sense of it? How do we get to the key things that we should be focusing on? And you need to understand, how does this help me? How does this ties to other things that I'm doing? So we need to make sure we do that as well. And then communicate, make sure that the right individuals within the law enforcement organization have that information, so we can actually show to the public that we can assure them that we're acting, that we're engaging, that we're participating, that we're protecting them. That's what if you're pulling all this together, it really is the perfect solution, or the perfect world where we actually are working in harmony with the community. And what's different now than it was in the 1700s, things in the 1700s happen in the physical world. But we have a major dimension that has been added to our challenge, which is the cyber world, the internet, the social media, the mobile devices. There's so much happening in the digital world that we need to okay, it's good? Okay. So we need to be able to make sure we take that into consideration as well. So not only we have to do all these things, we got to make sure that we keep on top of what's happening in the cyber world. It's a great time to be in this world. So we're looking at, when we looked at this, what are the key pieces that we need to do in order to be successful? The first thing is which social networks we should be on and how. What should we do and where is our presence? People on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vine, you name it, Snapchat, more and more organizations are going on Snapchat. I mean, CNN was saying they get something like 900,000 individuals that are going on the Snapchat page every single day. And this is a platform that just came out a few months ago. So it's huge. And then we also look at, am I big data ready? Am I going to be able to look at emails? Am I going to be able to look at documents? Am I going to be able to look at video? Am I going to be able to look at data coming from other sensors and so on and so forth, and the GIS and so on? It's like, those are the kind of things we need to think about as well. And then how can I meet the people's demands? And I'll talk to you about how we actually do this at Oracle. So the first example is the social network, and I'll talk to you about the Argentina federal police. So in their process, they engaged the community. They actually did a campaign. They were on the newspapers, on TV, and so on. And they informed the community they were going to do this. They would actually better understand sentiment. They could understand what people were happy or unhappy about, what are the topics they were talking about, the trends they were talking about, and they used their platform to do that analysis. So they were actually looking at improving crime analysis over social networks, and they want to be able to early detect suspicious activities, and they will incorporate this into their techniques they already use for crime investigation. And they saw a significant decrease in crime by doing this. And they leverage our platform, as I mentioned. We call this social relationship management, and Doug is in the back. We have a demo live going on right now of all the different tweets and all the chatter that is going on around the situation in Baltimore. I mean, I think you said in an hour, it was 14,000 messages that came in, not only from Twitter, but all kinds of different sources, either Facebook or the news or blogs, forums, and so on. So we pull data from 40 million plus sources into our application, and we apply what's called latent semantic analysis. When you go on Google and you do a search, Google will show you in a semantic web. Let's say you're searching for a famous writer or Steve Jobs. They'll come back with Steve Jobs. Say Steve Jobs was founded Apple. He lived to this age. He had these many kids and this wife and so on. So that's kind of the semantic analysis. Be able to bring things together in a way that is structured to give you the information you need that you're looking for. We pull in we have multiple customers across different industries, government and non-government, pull in about 700 million plus messages daily into this platform that we process. It's more deep and precise data. We also use this to engage with the public, as well as creating indicators, and we have about 30 different languages that you can do this in. And Doug will do a session tomorrow morning at 11. We'll go more in depth. We'll do a demo of the platform to show you how it works. It does 4 key things. The first thing it does is like all the social engagement and listening. And when we say listening is looking at all those 40 million sites, and then also engaging, responding to individuals. Because it's not enough to listen to people, you actually have to engage with them, either on one-on-one, to have a dialogue with these individuals, and I'll talk about some of the challenges that we're focused on, and I'll talk about also the crisis management, when you have to one-to-many, when you need to kind of inform the public of an outage, inform the public of some disaster that is happening, so you need to make sure. Like an example of this was what's happening in Nepal. You can go on Twitter right now, you can actually re-inform people and so on and so forth. So those are kind of things that you can actually do. And then publishing is creating content. There was a discussion before about policies and how the tone of voice, the things you're allowed to say, and how you're going to say it, and who's allowed saying it. I mean, because even though people can say what they want on social media, when you come into government, you have to be very careful that you use the right language, you use the right tone, because it could get you in trouble. So we actually have a tool that allows you to create the content and go through a workflow process to ensure that the right individuals can approve it and then publish it out to make sure it keeps with the branding of the image of the agency. And then we have social data. We can pull in data from multiple sources to kind of create all the different data that people have around social media. And then internal social collaboration is like not only collaborate with the public, but also with each other. That's a lot of people want to do that. I mean, something that a lot of private companies are doing, and we've seen law enforcement agencies doing as well, is communicating with each other. They want to talk to each other as communities, talking about specific topics, and texting each other or talking to each other, doing this more coordinated fashion. So I talked about some of the challenges that we are seeing. Social media is a great medium. It's a low-cost channel to communicate with people, but it can quickly become very difficult to manage. It can quickly become very expensive to manage. So the way we built our platform is to allow, and we focused on 6 key themes or key criteria. The first thing is cutting through the noise. I mean, this came up in one of the presentations this morning, is how do you actually get the messages that you really should focus on? Because you don't want to have like 100,000 messages and not know what to do with them. What are the 1,000 or the 100 that are really relevant to you, relevant to the topic that you do an analysis with? That's what we focus on, really refining to get to the answer as quickly as possible. Then the other one I talked about is social processes and permissions. This is critical, especially in government. There's been many situations where people have posted embarrassing things, and there was this morning was discussion about that as well. It's like in the White House has this issue, many other places have had this issue. People posting about the weekend, their beer party, or so whatever. That has no business in an official Twitter account or a Facebook account. So we need to make sure that we manage that. And then the other thing is reducing cost and time for publishing content and creation. We want to make sure that we do this as effectively as possible and do this in a way that actually, the way our platform is designed is you create the message one place, and then you can push it out to Twitter, to Facebook, to Instagram, and others as well, LinkedIn and others. And then the engagement piece, engaging one-on-one with the right tone of voice. You want to make sure that you looks like you're having a dialogue, because you don't want to give a canned answer to an individual a la United, where they sent a kind of a form letter to somebody, his name was not right, the situation was not right, so it was very embarrassing for them, and ended up on social media, and it was more damaging than it actually caused the situation. And then crisis management, working with many cities. We're talking to several cities about this, several transportation authorities and law enforcement and others, where they want to use this, communicate outages, communicate when there's some situation. I mean, this is a very important topic because we're talking with the city of San Francisco, and one of the things they're saying, that they see such huge value in using social media for crisis management because some of the other channels were not available. This was the best way to reach the population. And last but not least is having the analytics and the measurements to monitor performance. Because you need to know that what you're doing is actually reaching the individuals that you want to reach, that actually causing engagement with the population. Because it's not enough to post something. You want to know that if it's being retweeted, is it being liked, is it being shared with others? That's what kind of engagement you know. That's why you measure engagement. So you want to make sure that what you're publishing is being shared and people are reading it. So I'll talk quickly about some of these topics, and Doug will dive deeper tomorrow when you attend our session. So creating content on the different platforms, either Facebook or others. And we have with great Facebook capabilities to allow you to create custom applications, configure Facebook. Instead of having to do that on Facebook, you can do it on a platform. And then we have you can go across multiple streams. As I mentioned, you can cross Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and we're adding Instagram as well. And monitor, we have great capability for monitoring. I mean, Doug will show you this tomorrow, is really well done. It actually goes across all these different platforms and really brings in some key messages. And then engage across channels as well, analyze the impact. There's a lot of analytics we have in the platform. You actually can build a custom analytics. They have so many different metrics you can measure based on the platform, based on the campaign, because you may have a campaign that spans across different channels or different networks. You want to know where it's working better. Is it working better on Twitter? Is it on Facebook? What day of the week should be published? What time of the day? What population age group we should be targeting? Those are the kind of things we want to be focused on. If millennials, we target them with this message that is more tailored to them. If it's generation baby boomers, we want to target them with a different type of message. Those are the kind of things that we can do, the kind of analysis we provide. And last but not least, the workflow, because I think in government this is critical. I mean, the first question we get asked is, how do we actually ensure that we can have the right approval authorities? The next step in the process is around big data. And I talked about the big data around video, about processing images, documents, processing all kinds of data, collecting sensors and so on. And the Abu Dhabi Police Department actually uses this. They actually use this across different systems that they actually do, and they have an app that they give it to the law enforcement officers to find fines, register vehicles, traffic profiles, and so on and so forth. So that way they put the information in the hands of the users, so we're in the front line so they can better do their job. So the way we do this is that we actually use the data that comes in from internal systems. We tie this to a platform that does all the predictive analysis and all the data warehousing and all the advanced analytics, and then we take that information and pass it back to the individual users to be able to actually do the tasks that they need to do to better guide them on their tasks. And then we also have the Chicago Police Crime Prevention Information Centers that uses this. They use real-time analytics to solve crime and attacks. They're connected to other regional and national intelligence fusion centers. They're using this to prevent threats and commiserate protective measures, make sure they deploy the right officers at the right locations, and monitors the video surveillance and gunshot detections and automated license plate recognitions to be able to see if somebody's in a vehicle that we know is a suspect and be able to kind of identify them. And then it actually integrates with the facility incident management system, the FIMS systems, to be able to link back to example of this. There was a NATO summit a couple of years ago. There was a lot of protests because they were not happy. It happens everywhere. And they actually use social media data combined with video data combined with incident data to be able to identify not only the suspects, be able to identify also witnesses, to be able to ask them to come in and through social media in these channels, to be able to come in and talk and give their statements about the things that they have seen during the events. We also have the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. I mean, this is probably the largest law enforcement organization in the United States. They protect our borders, they protect our waters, they protect every shipment, every container that comes into the U.S., every merchandise that arrives, every individual that flies in and out of the U.S. goes through the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, and they use automated targeting systems. They use our platform. They've standardized on Oracle hardware, databases, and other tools as well, and they're actually using this to actually drive more and more volume through the organization, and they've seen dramatic performance improvements. And then the last piece is how can we meet the people's demands? We've been working with the Finnish police in Finland, and one of the things that they were struggling with is a lot of their IT budgets were being spent to maintain more than 100 systems that were obsolete, that they were no longer using, and they were really not useful for them to do their job. So what we did is we helped them build this social intelligence platform that we were talking about. We actually built this with the Finnish police. And the way we looked at it is we pulled in data from social media, from emails, from video, from phone records, and all kinds of different records. We process data through using natural language processing. We use linguistic semantic analysis. We do entity extraction. We use other agency data, combine it together, and then we use cross-domain secure databases. A lot of times the information that we actually need to match this to may be protected, may not be available to everybody. So we need to make sure that we actually take this data and combine it with data that is protected, and so we can actually build a real-time monitoring and send to the individuals that are authorized to actually see this data, because not everybody that can see that. And then user-driven analytics and visualizations to be able to give them the information so they can actually act on it and be able to use it to do their job. And then obviously integrating with other systems. And the way it looks from an architecture perspective is that we explore the data, we do the analysis, we put it through our SRM platform, then we actually use that data to build the relationships. We actually combine that with content, and we pass it on to agency data. We enrich it, then we use all the big data sources. We do graph databases to show the relationships with all these different systems, and then we apply risk policies. And then we actually use it through event processing using rules engines. We pass it on to the individuals, either on portals, through analytics, through cases, through workflow, to make sure the information gets to the right individuals. So another thing is our integrated policing platform allows you to to keep information about all your cases and so on, having case management, having all the information from all the different sources through GIS and others, bring it all together. And the Rio de Janeiro police uses this. They use this for investigation. They use it for records, firearms, vehicles, mobile phone, and so on and so forth. And their goal is to link all this together. So in summary, this concept of social enabled policing is all about taking your traditional channels, integrating this with an intelligence hub that allows you to take all this data, combine it with big data and social media data, and then tying this with the integrated policing platforms that you're already using today, either from us or other companies, and then be able to tie this to social media and be able to really use the power of social media to help you do your job better. Not only from an investigative perspective, from a crime prevention perspective, but also from a community engagement perspective, to ensure that you are engaging the public in doing this effectively. So the way I want to end this is really about social enabled policing. It's really community policing in the age of social networking. We started with this concept, police are the public and the public are the police, but now it's not only in the physical world, but it's also the cyber world. And Hong Kong got a little creative. He said social is sincere, open, collaborative, interested, authentic, and likable. These are some adjectives that you can apply to this. I mean, I think it may be a little quirky, but I think they are meaningful, because we want to make sure that there is that face to the public of the law enforcement as being you're doing great things for the public. Make sure that people recognize for that. That's why it's so important that we leverage these platforms to help us do that. And thank you very much.